Copyright disclaimer: under the Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing.
But there is a history of near extinction events. And one of the things that I've looked at, because I'm trying to figure out, between fiscal 1998 and fiscal 2015, there were 21 trillion of undocumentable adjustments in the U.S. government. If you go to our website, missingmoney.solera.com, we have years and years of documentation, including the government financials that show this. And so the question is, where's all this money going? And one of the things I've looked at in the process of looking at where all this money is going is the underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure. I think there are many more. So
in the United States?
In the United States, all over the world. But from 2021 to 2023, I took one of the smartest subscribers in the Solera Report network, and he and I spent 2 years collecting all the data and all the allegations on underground bases. And then we systematically went through and tried to estimate our guess. This is totally a guess of how many underground bases, both underground in the United States, but also underground under the ocean around the United States. And our estimate was 170. With a transportation network connecting them.
And what would be the purpose?
The purpose, if you thought you were going to get a near extinction event, so there, to me, there are two purposes. You have so many activities going on that you need to keep secret, that you're basically building the capacity to, for example, if you're doing a secret space program, you need to platform it from, things that can't be seen. But I think if you're worried about a near extinction event, that's...
So I know nothing about this other than my only window into it. I knew a contractor who worked on one in Washington, in the city of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I remember him telling me about a power box, like a transformer box on Constitution Avenue, that he told me, because he worked on it personally, was actually the exit, the egress from White House. That was kind of by vehicle. I thought that was... And I was like, really? He goes, oh, yeah, no, I installed it. I know. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy that in the middle of this big city where I lived I was on Constitution Avenue every day, that you could build something like that without me knowing it. Under the VP's house at the Naval Observatory, same thing. I think most people know that. Next to my brother's house on Macomb Street in D.C. But that's, I always thought that was like preparation for nuclear war. Like, I didn't really think about it that much.
Some of it is, yeah. It's preparation for catastrophe.
So, but you think that there are facilities like that in other places outside D.C.?
Oh, yeah. So if you're interested, we have a great interview. I did an interview of Richard Dolan on underground bases on the Solera Report, and it's sort of an introduction to the topic, and it's based on a lot of the research of a guy named Richard Sauter, who is very hard to interview. So Richard kind of went through all the material. And clearly it's... I don't know if you ever saw, Washington Post did a project, it was in 2010 or 12, called Top Secret America. And one of the reporters, it was a team of 2 reporters, one of them put together a database of all the different top secret installations that had been built in the country, including since the Patriot Act. And what you saw was just this explosion of money and building so many both underground and above ground facilities.
All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of Great Millstone, who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations be unto the Akim, out here pushing this gospel and truth and sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon your houses. This is Brother Quanah Watt come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. And, I came across, really the article, on thepeoplesvoice.tv, right? Outlining, right, what you just heard in this video. And I was reading it and whatnot. And that was earlier this morning. And when I went to go try to, ultimately get back, on thepeoplesvoice.tv, it's saying that Cloudflare is ultimately having issues again, right? Which we've seen that before, man, which ultimately is, we're having a lot of internet issues right lately, right? The last few years has been a lot of internet issues lately, which ultimately show you, we're at the end, right? Amos 8:11, the famine of the word is about to come, as well as, the last two major prophecies, which, is Jacob's trouble, right? The hour of temptation, right? Which is where, the peak of Jacob's trouble is going to be what? The mandatory implementation of the RFID micro CHIP, right? Which is ultimately to happen, going to happen before what? Before World War III, right? Which we're looking at, right? Being started, implemented right before our eyes right now, right? With this whole war between America, Israel, and Iran, things are starting to get really, really hot dealing with this whole situation, right? Economies are about to be, crumbled just based off of Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, which again is all leading to, the fulfillment, right? Revelations, 11 and 14, right? The third woe coming to pass, which is what? World War III, which is going to be the peak of World War III is going to be what? The use of those ICBM nuclear missiles, which America, recently, just started testing, their nuclear missiles, off the coast of California, just kind of, getting them, prepared and ready to use, and this is the time that we're in, and you see, and it's been happening, right? You saw the late, since the, late 1990s, to even now, right? You have a lot of these different elites. They've been having, these different bunkers, ultimately built and put in place, so that they can escape, right, this nuclear hellfire that's ultimately coming. And they know it's coming, right? The true prophets, Yahweh Bashem El Shah, have been on the scene, right, beginning with our elder apostles of Great Millstone on down, right? They've been on the scene telling you people, right, that this is what's going to happen. And see, now they see it, really happening and taking place, right? So they ultimately have been building, these DUMBs, right, deep underground military bunkers, right, to prepare for that, right? But see, that's not going to stop the judgment that Yahweh Bashem El Shah has set, right, for you heathens, man, beginning with you elites, you Edomites, right, you Rothschilds, you Rockefellers, DuPonts, Gettys, Oppenheimers, even the lower elites, right, the Gates, the Bezos, and so on and so forth, right, the Zuckerbergs and, E.P. Steens and so on and so forth, right? We're not, you're not going to be able to escape, right, what's coming, right? Even if you do flee into these DUMBs, Let me go right here. It says Amos 9:1, and as you see the header, it says God's judgment unavoidable. You're not going to be able to escape the judgment that Yahweh Bashem El Shah has set, right, for you heathens, man. You elites, right? You nobles, right? You so-called kings, right? It says, I saw the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shah standing upon the altar, and he said, smite the lintel of the door, that the posts may shake, and cut them in the head, all of them. I will slay the last of them with the sword. He that fleeth of them shall not flee away, and he that escapeth of them shall not be delivered. I mean, you're not going to be able to, again, avoid the judgment of Yahweh Bashem El Shah. It says, though they dig into hell, right, meaning into the ground, right, into the grave, right, the hell, goes into, like the grave, right? And matter of fact, let's look up that word, right, so we can get the proper context. Right, though they dig into hell, right, underworld grave, right, right, it says the grave, right? That's the proper understanding, right? Right, grave, right, the pit, right, ultimately the ground, right? You got these these pagan Christians, right, that ultimately tell you that this is speaking about hell, right, with the that little red demon looking ass, with a pitchfork, but it's not. It's talking about the ground, right? In the ground, right? In the grave. The grave is the ground, Though you dig into the ground, right? Let's go back. Right? It says, though they dig into hell, right? The ground, then shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. And we understand that she was saying that even they have a space force, right? A space program, right? That they will go up there and they would, ultimately sit in, the International Space Station and so on and so forth, right? Ultimately, right? It's ultimately basically them, trying to escape, right? Going into the sky, into the International Space Stations, or them trying to dig into, the earth, or even in the water, or, trying to escape, right? It says, and though they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, I will search and take them out thence. And though they be hid from my sight in the bottom of the sea, thence will I command the serpent, and he shall bite them. So see, again, they got these dumbs, right? And she said even they got the space ones, right? They got the sea ones, and they got these deep underground. And see, Esau, they got something called the revelation of the method, right? Esau tells you what he's gonna do prior to him doing it. Right, you got a lot of these different movies and TV shows, mainly TV shows, about Esau going into these different bunkers. Right, you got Fallout, Silo. Right, there's another one, I can't remember what it is. It's basically he's stuck in this dome. They act like and it's in a mountain. Right, I can't remember the name of the TV show. Right, I watched it. Right, so-called black dude is the main actor. He's Secret Service for the president, and he ends up finding out that the outside world, right, is still alive. People are out there, right, but they're ultimately trying to keep everybody in, and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, it's an underground bunker, right? All of those TV shows that I just named off are all underground bunkers, and this is what Esau is preparing for. He's preparing for this war, right? You got military members being told that this war with Iran is to incite the return of our Lord Yahweh Shai, which they're not being told Yahweh Shai. They're being it's to spark Armageddon, right? It's to spark the return of Christ, right? Which we know his name is not, we know it's not Christ, right? We know his name's Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, right? Hamashiach meaning the anointed, This is what they're being told, that this is the start of World War III, and it is, and we understand that when World War III ultimately hits its peak, Yahweh Shai, right, the use of those missiles, Yahweh Shai gonna crack the sky as well, and while all that's happening, where are the elites gonna be? They're gonna be trying to hide themselves from that judgment that's coming, but they're not gonna be able to avoid it, right? We read at the top. It says God's judgment unavoidable. You're not going to be able to run, right? You're not going to be able to hide. You're not going to be able to. It's not like that show 100, right? Where they were in that bunker, right? And then what happened, right? They ultimately realized that the air outside was breathable, and then they escaped to the outside, right? Back to the outside world. No, right? You're not going to be able to escape and come back to the outside world and rebuild your society, and it's not going to happen. Right? Once the elect get delivered and the crowning ceremony ultimately happens, what's going to happen? Right? The Lord is going to allow the elect to come down and put you damn devils into captivity. Right? That's why it says, though they dig into hell, then shall my hand take them. And what's the hand of the Lord? Right? It's us. Right? The Israelites, Ezekiel 25. And I'll start at verse 12, where it says, Edom, thus saith the Lord God, Yahweh Ba'Shem El Shai, right? It says, because that Edom have dealt against the house of Judah, and taken by vengeance, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, and will make it desolate from Teman, and they of the Don shall fall by the sword. So the Lord is going to ultimately send forth great destruction upon America, right? Which America is going to be the ultimate place of the, a judgment, right? But you're also going to have ICBM nuclear missiles that hit other places as well, but mainly here in America and in Israel, right? The difference between America and Israel is going to be built back up, but America's not going to, right? And here's the point, verse 14, it says, I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. Thence will my hand take them, right? Meaning the Lord's going to put the spirit upon us, right? To come and grab y'all, man. We're going to come down there and we're going to snatch y'all up, man. Right? As it says, though they dig into hell, thence will my hand take them, right? He said, I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. Right? The Lord going to put the spirit on us to snatch y'all up, man. And it's going to be fucking beautiful. Imagine, right? You're going to be in these underground bunkers. The everything above the bunker is going to be completely demolished. The entrance and the exit to those bunkers are going to be demolished. Well, how are we going to get in? Well, the Lord's going to endow us with spiritual power, and we're going to fucking pop up right in front of y'all. On your TVs, you're going to sit there and turn on the light, and we standing there. Right? We're just going to materialize right in front of you and snatch you up and put you into captivity. It says, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do unto Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. You going into captivity, right? That's Psalms 149, right? Psalms 149 and verse 6, it says, let the high praise of the Most High be in their mouth and the two-edged sword in their hand. And it's talking about us, right? We're going to be giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua in those days, right? More than we do now, right? We give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua to the best of our ability to, now, but how much more when we receive, that salvation, right? The deliverance, right? That ultimate form of mercy, right? How much more? It says to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, meaning you going into captivity, right? It says to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints, praise ye Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. So that's the judgment that's written, man. And as we read, right, the God's judgment is unavoidable, right? You heathens are not going to be able to just escape into some damn bunker and think you're going to be, good. No, right? Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua has a judgment written for you heathens. And guess what? That judgment is going to be played out, right? The Lord's word shall not return unto him void. So you damn devils are going into captivity, This is a quick lesson, man. We'll go ahead and close out with this. This is Revelations chapter 13 and verse 9. It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that kills with a sword must be killed with a sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And we're patiently waiting. Right? Right now we're under you damn devils, and we have to suffer, being into captivity. But soon Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is going to pull us out of captivity, and you damn devils are going into captivity. And your captivity is going to be far worse than ours. Reward her double, even unto her double. It's going to be worse than the captivity that you've been putting us through for so long, for hundreds of years. You're going to have 1,000 years. You Edomites are going to have 1,000 years of extremely hard bondage. And then you'll be wiped out. Your entire nation, your bloodline will be wiped out. The rest of the heathens, they're going into captivity as well. But see, they're going to be tributaries forever unto us. You Edomites will be wiped out, but the heathens will remain, and they're going to be forever tributaries unto the Israelites for all eternity, being put in their rightful order. But you Edomites finna catch it, man. Y'all got it coming, man. All you heathens got it coming, but especially you you Edomites, man. Us as Israelites, we're going to be on top, ruling forever, and that's what's coming, man. So with that, Lord wills, that final will straight to the point, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Rechak Wadash, double honor to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of the great millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.